I'm sick in the head, I'm delusional. Some man comes up to me and he's like, hey Noah, are you looking for me? Hey, I'm calling up because I have a report of somebody fearing for their life.
Hello. I have an album coming out, by the way. It's my debut album. It's called Growing Up on the Internet. You should pre-save it. We also have vinyls, and there are angry trans songs and other things you might like. Also, if you want to see me and meet me and say hi in real life, if you're in America, then I'm touring in March and April. You should buy a ticket to that. Or if you're in the UK, you should come see me support Enter Shikari in silly big rooms. Anyway.
Hello, underachievers. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Noah, that title is crazy. There's no way that actually happened. Yes, it did. It did happen. It did very much happen. I need to say something. I need to say something real quick. You notice how it says, tried to get me arrested? Yes, that's a serious legal thing. So if in the comments, don't be mean to anybody involved in this story. Only comment really nice things, really wholesome, nice things. I'm not making this video to upset anyone. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm not trying to scare anyone, anything like that. I literally just thought it was a crazy story. It's a crazy story. So let me set the scene. Picture this. One summer's day in June 2020. Yes, that's 2020.
The latest on the coronavirus.
Not a great time, that 2020. I attended a Black Lives Matter protest in central London. And at this point in the UK, we had been on lockdown for like 2 months, really not long at all. But pretty much, you weren't really allowed to go outside. This was the first trip that I decided to take outside of my general area. You know, I'd go to the shop, I'd buy some food, I'd go to the park, I'd cry a little bit. But, you know, I thought this is a real good reason. This is a real good cause. We're gonna go to a Black Lives Matter protest. We're gonna do our thing. We're gonna protest. We just wanted to take part. We just wanted to do our bit. Because I'm a hero. I'm joking. I'm not a hero. Anyway, we're at this Black Lives Matter protest. And, of course, the police were there. So you can kind of guess, you can assume, you can estimate what happened. What happened was, it was a peaceful protest. The protesters were very peaceful. I was one of those peaceful protesters. But when the police get involved, they're not a particularly peaceful bunch, I've heard. They decided to bring their horses. Because that's what they do. Why do they do that? Intimidation? I assume there's nothing scarier than a big horse. In the UK, they put police on horses for crowd control reasons. They just plod them on there. They're like, hey, sit on this live animal. Sit on this. Scare the people, I guess. I don't really know how I feel about the police using horses. I don't know data on that. But just personally, I've seen a lot of police horses not be under control. I can't lie. I think horses are mostly I'm really sorry to the horse people out there, to the horses watching. They get frightened real easily, so I don't think these horses should be in crowded areas. Inevitably, the police escalated the situation. You know, the protesters were peaceful. They were rightfully angry at the situation, obviously. But the police were doing what they do. They were being too forceful for no good reason, other than the fact they're police. With big horses. Little men with silly hats on big horses. They were just really walking their horses into crowds of people. Not a good shout. The protesters obviously were scared that their feet were going to be stepped on by a horse, or their faces kicked in by a horse. I don't think it's a good Anyway, what happened was they started throwing bottles at the horses and the police. The horses, you know, the horses weren't at fault, I would say. The horses, you know, I guess they're ACAB. Are horse cops bastards?
Well, sorta, kinda.
Do I think they should have thrown bottles at horses? No. Do I think they should have thrown bicycles at horses? Because that apparently happened. No, I don't think we should throw things at horses. I don't think that's a nice thing to do. But, in all seriousness, someone drives a horse towards you. I don't know what my reaction would be. So anyway, that was that. That made news. Obviously, there were a bunch of articles about it. And, of course, the media were just like, look at all these dangerous protesters at their peaceful protests. Upset when people try and hit them with horses. So anyway, we went home and I was sat scrolling through Facebook because that's what I do sometimes because it's fun. It's hilarious. I get stuff like this on my feed. But Facebook is also a place where I'm really nosy about people that I went to school with that I don't see ever in person. And lo and behold, who pops up? A horse girl that I went to school with. She had something to say. Now, may I please take this opportunity to say this? I've not once named this person. I've not said where they live. I've not even said the general area. I've not said anything about, like, where I went to school, any of that. That is not public information. Just saying, never once named this person publicly. And, like, if they're watching, hello, I hope you're doing good. I've given no distinguishable information other than the fact that she's a horse girl. And there are plenty of horse girls. There are plenty of them. So anyways, I see her post this. An article saying horse bolts through crowd as police and demonstrators clash at anti-racism rally. So she says, makes me so angry. This is not protesting, and especially not peaceful. This is an excuse to cause trouble. No matter who you are, if you throw a bike or a brick at a horse, you're a piece of shit. Yeah, I don't think we should throw things at horses either. With you on that, girl. Innocent police officers and horses are... Okay. Innocent police officers and horse are being targeted whilst just out doing their jobs protecting the public. This is too far now. So there's an amount to unpack about that. First off, this is not protesting, and especially not peaceful. This is an excuse to cause trouble. The reason that it wasn't peaceful is because the police decided to drive their horses into a crowd of people. Hope that helps. I was there. I saw it happen. There are plenty of people there that saw this happen. There are people that have written articles about this that saw it happen. The police were the ones starting this, and it's definitely not an excuse to cause trouble. Here's literally a video that I took there. People were protesting for a good cause. No trouble causing on my mind. The trouble clearly came afterwards. Innocent police officers, debatable. Innocent horses, yes. If anyone, I'm on the side of the horse. I'm with you, okay? And maybe I should have said that, because then maybe I wouldn't have almost gotten arrested. Horse lives matter. Okay, wow. That was a silly joke. Again, protecting the public by driving horses into them, no. I would not. I would disagree about that specifically. The thing that got me the most about this post was the last bit. This is too far now. So that really hit home with me. That alerted something in my brain, like, this is too far now. As in, it wasn't too far before. It wasn't too far when police were, you know, murdering innocent black people. Like, that is what stuck with me when I read that post, because I was like, this girl, she just cares about horses. That is her whole thing. She just loves horses. But you know what? I read this, and I was like, this girl just loves horses. Like, she just loves horses. So I'm not gonna go in on her for just loving horses. You know, I'm gonna go through her Facebook, see if there's anything else that she posted about the BLM stuff. It'd be kind of weird, to be honest, if this was the only thing she posted about the BLM stuff. Not weird, I don't know, like, I'm not expecting everybody in the world to let everybody know their opinions about daily ongoings, but for me, if I was a horse girl and I was interested in horses, I loved horses, hooves are my jam, I love trotting, cantering, galloping, all the above. I feel like if I was gonna post about this, I would have said something like, hey, this sucks. Probably shouldn't kill black people though. And I'm not gonna sit here and be like, hey girl from my school, do everything you possibly can to let your Facebook friends know that you think police brutality is bad. That's not what I'm saying. So I was like, I'll ignore it and I'll just be nosy. I'll just read the comments, see what other people have to say. Is there anybody that kind of agrees with me that like could have worded it a little bit better? So I was nosy and I found this comment of someone saying, I go to a lot of these protests. The police generally start the trouble by either trying to kettle a peaceful march or charging in on horseback, which that's what happened. That is what happened. A sensible policing strategy would be to let people march peacefully, only intervene if these protesters initiate violence, and not bring horses into potentially dangerous situations. My guy, I am in love with you. I don't know who you are, but I liked his comment. I was like, perfect. You explained that so succinctly. Succinctly. Goddamn. Like, absolutely. Why are we bringing horses into this situation? Horses don't like crowds. So this horse girl from my school, OP, she says, police horses are crowd control. That's exactly what they're trained and used for. People are throwing bottles, bikes, and bricks at them while they're out doing their job, trying to protect the public. There's certain groups that are just out for trouble. Who are the certain groups, may I ask? Specific, could you be specific? Not to mention the global pandemic. The 3 months we've all spent locked down to protect our own and others' lives, and now that's all gone out the window. All lives matter. So this is the point where I was like, oh, I'm gonna say something. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to be a peaceful protester in your comments. Also, I don't think we can blame the continuation of the pandemic on a protest. Also, people were wearing masks. So all lives matter. Like, I don't need to explain to you why that's not an appropriate response to the BLM movement. All lives matter. Yeah, if you look at that in the simplest form, my life does matter. Your life matters too. And horse lives matter. That's not the point. You don't understand what you're talking about if that is your response to people saying Black Lives Matter. I know my audience. I know I don't need to explain that to you. But anyway, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to stay silent. I'm going to do the thing where I'm like, hey, actually, no. Don't say that. The worst part of this entire story is not the fact that I almost got arrested, it's the fact that I only screenshotted one comment. I will give you a general overview of what I commented. It was essentially just like, hey, all lives matter is not the one right now. That phrase just, it's not the vibe. I feel like you could research a bit more. Maybe you'd understand why that's not a great thing to say. Especially after saying it's too far now, only when horses are being hurt. All I can find from that comment that I left is this screenshot, where 9 of her Facebook friends liked it, which must have felt not great, I'm sure. And all I can see is me saying, you should probably read up about why... ... That's all there is. We pretty much just had an argument in the comment section, where she kept complaining that I called her racist. I specifically didn't call her racist because I knew that if I called her racist, she would not listen. I pretty much just kept repeating myself, like, hey, you should read up about Black Lives Matter because it seems like you don't know what you're talking about. And she was like, I do get it. I understand. I get it. But all lives matter, and I'm like, look, we can go in circles with it. Like, you don't get it. The only screenshot of a comment I made that I do have is this one. So this is a comment responding to her sister, because of course her sister got involved. Remember that for later. I said, again, if she understood the Black Lives Matter movement, she'd understand that all lives matter is an embarrassing response to black people being murdered by the police. Not really sure why you're calling it a riot. They were calling it a riot. It was a protest. I walked through the entire protest, walked past people marching. I don't really care that she has a passion for horses. I don't. I'm sorry. Sure, horses shouldn't be used in situations like this, but I think it's pretty obvious that her anger should be directed at the fact that black people are disproportionately murdered by the police. Can I reiterate that the only reason I ever responded to this post or any of these comments was because she was like, all lives matter, and I'm like, look, this is the point I'm trying to make. Just don't do that, because it just shows how ignorant you are. And her sister says, I think you need to calm a bit, because all that you're doing is causing negative vibes. Oh god, I'm sorry to harsh your vibes, bruh. And repeating the same points over. Yes, it's because you're not getting them. She does understand the movement, and it's not your place to say whether that is the case or not. I understand maths. 2 + 2 is 5. Hey, you don't understand math. No, I get it! Okay, protest. I apologize for my wording. Jesus Christ. Yes. Yes. That is loaded language. Saying an anti-racism protest is a riot, that is loaded language. Very, very, very loaded language, especially when it comes to race. You've literally just said it. Horses shouldn't have been used in this situation. End of. That's all she wanted to communicate. So that's not what she wanted to communicate. And if she did it badly. Yeah, horses should not have been used in this case. And whose fault is that? Is that the fault of the protesters that have been driven into by a horse and then throw bottles at them? Or is it the fault of the policeman that drove on horseback into a protest? Like, literally, if that's what she's trying to say, she literally said in the initial post that these are innocent police officers. They're the ones that are putting the horses in danger, not me. Well, I didn't throw anything. But not the protesters. My favorite part, may I just say, is the fact that she decided to block every single person that liked my comments. Just like friends that she'd had for years. So everybody on my Facebook feed, everyone I was friends with, probably had seen this going down. And I just wanted to say something about it. Real disappointing, though not surprising, that people I've grown up with seem to have no issue with systemic racism and the literal murder of black people by the police. I could have worded that way better, by the way. This was me then, I'm me now. Just because it doesn't negatively affect you directly, it doesn't mean that you should ignore it or insist that it doesn't happen. And after that post, inevitably, I got a lot of messages from people that I have not spoken to in years, messaging me, you know, that they didn't believe in institutionalized racism, that they just didn't get it, they didn't think it was a thing. Racism doesn't exist anymore, apparently, because there are black people at my school, and that apparently that means you can't be racist. No, it's not real, apparently. And at that point, I was raging. I was mad. I ended up getting in an argument with this guy from my school who is literally gay, so should understand discrimination, and how discrimination doesn't necessarily have to be overt for it to be discrimination. I wasn't surprised. I grew up in a very white area. I grew up in very white schools. I was not surprised that I was raised around and friends with people that just did not understand what racism was. And it was so painful, so I obviously vented about it on Twitter. I vented a lot about it on Twitter because I was an angry little guy. So I vented about the horse girl, obviously. I also vented about the guy that didn't believe racism existed. And so I was tweeting about a lot of things at once. I said, LMAO, girl from my school outed herself as an all lives matter gal. Disappointed. I posted a screenshot of the things that she said, blurred out her name, blurred out her profile picture, blurred out any identifiable information. Horse girl decides that is too far now when horses get hurt, but not when black people are murdered. Look, I was annoyed that people are just not... that they're ignorant, okay? It's annoying. I said, call out your stupid ass white friends who don't attempt to make an effort to understand what's happening. And this was not about her specifically. As I said, we weren't friends. Like, I hadn't seen her in 10 years or whatever. Like, she had not entered my mind until this thing. This was more just a time when people were just saying the dumbest shit. Clearly, completely ignorant about racism, institutionalized racism, ignorant about Black Lives Matter. It was horrible. The media was pushing for... it was not a good time. I speak about this as if it was like 10 years ago. I'm sure this stuff is still going on. It absolutely is going on, but I just know that I felt it a lot in that lockdown. This one is specifically about her. I said literally one of my childhood best friends is an all lives matter horse girl. Call that shit out. I was going for it. So anyways, after the argument with horse girl on Facebook comment section was wrapping up, you know, things were slowing down a little bit. I had a bunch of people liking my comments, which that must have been very annoying for her, but very, very, very funny for me. I had people messaging me like, I'm glad you said something because I read that and was like, oh god, that's not great. And so of course she decides to message me on Facebook Messenger. She says, really don't know what your issue is, but I'm entitled to my views and you're entitled to yours. You clearly feel very angry about the whole thing and that's understandable, but you don't need to pull me up on my views. Like, I don't understand why people like this think that we just exist in a world where we should not question people's beliefs or views. We should just accept people for who they are, not in terms of transgenderism, homosexuality, neurodivergency, none of that, just in terms of having bigoted views. We should just accept that, okay? I'm sure there's a lot that you believe in that I will never understand, but that doesn't mean you have to force it down my throat. So, that felt reminiscent of thousands of comments that I get about being gay or bi or trans. You know, don't force it down our throats. There's a lot that you believe in that I will never understand. And this is not about racism. This is not about the Black Lives Matter thing, because as she said, she understands. She gets it. There's no confusion. She understands it entirely. So what could this be about? No idea. Anyway, posting things accusing people of being racist, whoever you may say it's about, she had seen my tweets at this point, is idiotic. Is idiotic to say people are racist. Does something vaguely reminiscent of racism, or does a racism in itself. Don't say it, idiot. Just because you attended a protest doesn't mean you're any more entitled to a view on it than anyone else. Like my gal, like I was there and saw the thing that you're talking about happen. So like when you said that protesters were there to cause problems, I was there. I see firsthand that's not the case. I see firsthand that these innocent police officers that you called them, they were not so innocent. I feel like with the experience that I have of that, I feel like maybe I do have more of a say about what happened in that specific instance. Just because you're at my birthday party and you saw what happened at my birthday party and you were there for my birthday party when I had a birthday party doesn't mean you get to say anything about my birthday party. You don't get to say any more about my birthday party than anybody else that wasn't at my birthday party just because you're at my birthday party. Leave it there now, because you're clearly part of the minority that can condone what's going on in that video, and that's messed up. By the way, not once did I say, yeah, let's go for it. Let's throw bottles at horses. Bicycles, bricks, glassware, kitchenware. Go for it. Let's go. Let's throw shit at horses. I never said that. Again, I will say I don't think we should throw things at horses, just to clarify in case there was any miscommunication. All I said was maybe read up about Black Lives Matter, because it seems like you don't really get what you're talking about. So I responded, lol. I said, lol. If somebody is racist, I'm gonna call them racist. The fact that 9 people in your friend group liked my comment about you needing to read up more on the BLM movement kind of suggests that you need to know more about it. It's not idiotic to call a racist a racist. Not calling a racist is idiotic. It just makes you complicit. She says, you really are sick in the head. You carry on living in your delusional little world. Thumbs up. Specifically from context of what we have from the situation. Argument on Facebook Messenger. What specifically do you think she's referencing? Is it A, my take on racism, B, my transgenderism, or C, my thoughts on Liam Payne? So I just had a question, like, I don't think she was communicating effectively. Well, I think she was communicating very effectively. I said, how does me calling out racists make me sick and delusional? And she says, and I'm racist by calling people out on animal cruelty, am I? I did not say that. I said, where did I call you a racist? I called you an all lives matter horse girl. The issue that I had with what you were saying was not the fact that you think horses having things thrown at them is bad. It was that you said all lives matter. And then I wanted to communicate because it seemed like she didn't really get it. So I said, you're complicit in only calling out the fact that horses are hurt when black people are being murdered out in the street. You're calling police officers innocent when they're the ones putting the horses in danger. They charged at protesters. She says, I posted about the fact that they were hurting animals and you jumped on it for an argument. And I said, I jumped on it because you started spouting all lives matter bullshit. She says, which is 1000% true. Doubling down on it. And I said, you said it's too far now, only when horses were being injured. She said, thanks honey bun, have a nice day. And I says, you can't say you know anything about Black Lives Matter and then spout all lives matter, lol. Thumbs up, and then I get a creature in there real quick, just before she blocks me. So she blocked me. We can see that. She did that. She didn't want to have an argument. She didn't want to clarify why my head is sick and I'm delusional. But don't worry. We know exactly why, because obviously all the people liking my comments on her Facebook posts were like talking to me and messaging me being like, hey, this is kind of... She ended up making a post on Facebook feed, and obviously I saw it because several people sent it to me because they saw it and they were like, ooh, might want to read this. Strap in. I don't usually post things like this, but feels this needs to be said. I shared a video last night of the police horses being attacked in the protests, and wake up to find I'm a Twitter sensation for being a stupid white ass who believes that all lives matter. Yes, that's correct. How awful of me to believe that everyone matters. Black, white, Asian, animals, every life. Everyone is equal, and I'm sorry if some people find that offensive somehow. Just because I chose to not go and protest, that doesn't mean I support the cause any less. Look, I don't care if you didn't look, there's a severe misunderstanding here. Like, not on my end. I don't find it offensive that you think everyone's equal. I think you're completely disregarding what's going on with Black Lives Matter by saying all lives matter because you don't get it. So here it is. Here's the bombshell. This girl thinks that people throwing bikes, bricks, and bottles at the police and their horses is completely acceptable because they were provoked. I'm sorry, but by anyone's standards, that's total wrong. This girl Bear in mind, look, I bet there's gonna be people in the comments being like, oh, she didn't know, like, you went to school together, she was a good, you're a girl. You know, when I said I haven't heard from her in 10 years, that was a lie, because I think we messaged like a year before this, just for a catch up to see how everyone was doing. I was Noah for several years during this. My name on Facebook was Noah. My pronouns were he. I'm pretty sure we had spoken about me being trans in a group chat of people from my school. I had also come out on Facebook, like, she was aware entirely. There is no mistake in her calling me a girl. That is entirely the point. You look back at the messages, I'm sick in the head, I'm delusional. Hilarious. Very, 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 very hilarious, but annoying that I couldn't respond. I would say that is probably the most annoying part. She says, it's people like this that are the reason otherwise peaceful protests for very valid causes end up as riots and bad press. No, okay, so, right. Noahfinnce starts riot, 2020. Sick in the head, delusional, transgender Noahfinnce starts riot. No, I don't think that I am the reason for things like this happening again, and I'll stick to my balls. Is that a phrase? Is that a saying? I'll stick to what I said earlier. The police were responsible for this. Not me. I saw it firsthand. I saw videos of it. That was not my fault. But, you know, several people messaged me, obviously being like, A, glad you did that. I was gonna say something. Glad you said something. And B, I can't believe she called you a girl. Everyone's aware of what happened. It's very, very obvious. So that was hilarious. And now you're thinking, Noah, we're like so long into this video. This video is so long, and not once have you mentioned being arrested. So this whole situation all took place June 7th. My mother's birthday. I love my mother. June 22nd. And at this point in the pandemic, you're allowed to have small gatherings outdoor. So what would I do? We would have an outdoor little party of me and like a few people just to say happy birthday. So my mum invited me to her house, but she had just moved there, so I had never been there. I had no idea really how to get there. I was relying on Citymapper, and you know in Citymapper, or like any navigation app, does that thing where it just takes you to the wrong place? You type in the address very specifically, and it just doesn't take you to where you need to be. That happened, and of course she wasn't picking up the phone. So anyway, we're circling the area for the 5th time, and some man comes up to me, and he's like, hey Noah, are you looking for me? So bear in mind, I have a bad memory. Like, I'm not good at names, I'm not good at faces. I often feel very guilty when I run into people that I've met before and I don't remember them. So I'm always like, hey, nice to see you, when we say bye, instead of nice to meet you. Anyway, I did not recognize this man. Full stop, I did not know how he knew my name. My brain immediately goes to this. I'm like, oh, well, maybe my mum knows him and has introduced him to me, and I just don't remember. And I remembered specifically a few months back, my mum introduced me to some friends. A man who was round about the same age. He could have looked the same. I have no idea. I went round his house, and all I remember about that was that he had a nice dog. And I remember the name of his dog, but I don't remember his name. So I'm like, oh god, I'm just being rude. I've forgotten my mum's friend's name. So I'm like, no, like, I'm not here for you. Sorry. I'm trying to find my mum's house. Corey was with me, by the way. We were just wandering around aimlessly. So anyway, my mum finally picks up the phone after about 5 minutes of us still walking around. She comes to find us. She comes to rescue us. And I'm like, hey mum, like, I feel really bad. This guy came up to me, and maybe I could have been more polite. So I was like, okay, so we'll go back. Let me know if you recognize this guy. Let me know his name so I can say hi again. And by this point, it's not just him outside his house. It's him, his wife, and what looks to be his kid, who's an adult. And I recognized the wife. And I looked at the daughter, and I recognized the daughter. And they're like, hi, Noah. I realize at this point that this is Horse Girl's dad, and this is Horse Girl's mom, and this is Horse Girl's sister, who I argued with on Facebook. And I'm like, oh god, sorry, no, I'm here because it's my mom's birthday. Are you the insert last name? They're like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. Well, I was just here for my mom's birthday. Sorry. Mortified. Absolutely mortified. Like dead. Like deceased. Like not living. I just walk away. My mum follows behind. And I've explained this to Corey, obviously, the whole Facebook situation. I've explained it to my mum. She found it hilarious. I can't believe that happened. It was only a few weeks after the Facebook ordeal. I did not, like, my mum just happened to move in real close to their house somehow. Anyway, we hang out with my mum, have a nice day outside, and then we go home. And then a few weeks later, I get a call from a no caller ID number. And I don't pick those up. Literally 30 seconds later, after I just let that ring, I get a call from someone's mobile number, and I'm like, okay, well, they clearly want to talk to me, and they're fine with me knowing their number, so I pick up. It was the police. He says, hey, I'm calling up because I have a report of somebody fearing for their life and scared for their safety, because of abusive comments made under a post that you have made on the internet. And I'm like, huh? What? I'm like, what? Like, who? Things slowed down at this point. I'm like, what? Why is there a policeman on my phone? Why is he calling? Like, what am I gonna, like, what? Like, so in my head, I'm like, so, okay, so he's calling up, because somebody's reported, not me, but they have reported me because I'm getting a phone call, but they've reported me because somebody that isn't me said something that made them fear for their life. I'm like, I don't Could you explain more? He was like, I believe there was an argument on Facebook a few weeks back, something to do with horses at a protest, and the comment is electric chair. You know the meme electric, you know when someone says electric chair, someone just comments electric chair? You know when you go to an ice cream shop and they only give you a little scoop of ice cream and not a big scoop of ice cream, electric chair? I got reported to the police because one of you motherfuckers commented electric chair under one of my tweets about this All Lives Matter horse girl. And I was like, oh, okay, are you talking about... And then I said her name, and he was like, scooting around the question. I was like, okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Like, what's the situation? Well, apparently you turned up at her house. And I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. Like, why is this my life? Like, what? Like, how has this happened? Like, why is this the thing that happens to me? And I had to be like, oh, right. Okay, so let me explain that to you real quick. And first off, like, I was speaking as a policeman. I was so polite because, like, I'm polite. I'm a polite guy. I didn't really say anything about the Facebook thing other than the fact that, like, she blocked me and called me delusional. I should have mentioned the fact that I'm trans and she called me a girl. But I was like, yeah, so this is kind of the situation. Here's a little rundown. Also, I ended up outside her house by accident. I actually meant to go to my mum's house because it was her birthday that day. And he was polite. Like, he was polite as he could be. He was like, really? Like, what's your mum's address then? And I gave him my mum's address, literally across the street from her house. And he was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I was like, yeah, like, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm not a threat to anyone. I had to explain to him what electric chair meant. I had to explain to a policeman what the internet meme electric chair meant, what the context of it was, that it was lighthearted, that she should not be scared for her safety, nobody's coming after her. Also, like, scared for her safety, I think it kind of has something to do with the fact that I accidentally ended up outside of her house with a tall black man. Like, Corey is 6 foot. And he's black. She doesn't seem to vibe, you know, with the whole Black Lives Matter situation. I don't know, that's just a guess. Essentially, he just said, okay, cool, that makes sense. We just don't want this to turn into a harassment case. I would have much rather not have had any interactions with her, to be fair. And he was like, okay, cool, I guess that makes sense. Just don't end up outside her house again. I was like, look, I have no intention of doing that. So that was the story. Again, as I said at the beginning, don't be cruel, because see what kind of situations that gets me into. Okay? I can't believe the twists and turns there were. I also cannot believe that she called me a girl. I guess that was the story. Let me know what you think. Nicely. I know that I haven't done anything illegal. Don't get me in trouble. I guess that's the end of the video. Please pre-save my album. It does really help. And I think if you liked any of my stuff before, you'll like this one. There's the heaviest stuff I've ever done. There's the poppiest stuff I've ever done. If you've never listened to my music before, now is a good time. I promise you. But yeah, have a good day or don't. See you later, losers. Goodbye. I'm not going to punch this camera because it's not mine. But pew, pew, pew.